Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Physical Therapy Private Practice Secrets of the Top 10%. I'm super excited today because I do have a special guest, Kelly Brown from Prediction Health. And as we all know, just turning on the TV, the world is spinning 17 million times faster than when we were 8 years old playing in the backyard on a swing set, right? So, especially for me at 57 years old, that was a long time ago. So, looking at what our profession is up against today, we have decreased reimbursement, we have increased costs, we have increased labor, we have 6 out of 10 able bodied people unwilling to work when they are able to work. We live in a global stratosphere, a global environment, and it's the only way we are going to survive and actually thrive moving forward as business owners, especially in healthcare, especially in physical therapy private practice, is for us to consider innovation, technology, efficiency, the economy of scale. I know for our company, we are on an explosive ride of providing remote administrative services to people across the country. And all I keep running up against is I've got this AI tool in my office. It's saving my therapist so much and it's so great. And it's just across the cross section or around the edges. I'm getting all this wonderful positive feedback. And I said, it's probably a good idea for all of you listening and all of you who take the time to listen to our podcast to hear it from the source, because I think Kelly and Prediction Health are really at the top of the pack, really looking from a higher perspective, if you will, and a longer range outcome in the benefit area for all of us. It's not just about providing you a documentation tool. And I'm going to stop there and I'm going to let this conversation evolve. We're going to have a back and forth dialogue for your benefit. I will ask the questions that I hope all of you listening might ask, because listen, it's all about who you choose to do business with if you're really going to thrive in 2025. So over to you, Kelly. Prediction Health. Why don't we start with a little bit of the history of the company and what brought you in, and just a little bit about yourself and your new exciting role here?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Brian. Appreciate that intro. It was very, very generous. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm Kelly Brown. Prediction Health is an AI company that obviously is in the physical therapy space. We started in 2017. Our two co-founders, Pedro and Ravi, met at Vanderbilt while they were in their MD PhD program in bioinformatics. So they are incredibly talented and brilliant men, and they really wanted to solve some problems in the healthcare industry using AI. And so they are both, practitioners, but also they are data nerds, as they self-proclaim themselves. And so they met at school, and then they started working in the physician, actually scribing space. And then they actually met a physical therapy organization that I worked with many years ago. And then they started investigating how maybe their product and AI could help in the physical therapy space. They saw a lot of opportunity there. So, which very lucky for me and for all of us that are physical therapists, that they did choose to stay in this space and to help out. So, over the last few years, in 2021, we launched our analytics platform where we use AI to analyze signed documented notes for quality, so for compliance, also for coding, so you can understand how your therapists are coding. And then we have shifted back into the scribing space the last about 2 years to give a scribing tool to therapists that is a physical therapy based scribing tool that is built off of our models that we have spent years developing that is physical therapy specific. So that is our company kind of in a nutshell. I'll go into a little bit later, just like some of our mission into that you kind of alluded to, Brian, some of our future, where we want to go, future directions. Our mission is to help providers provide the best care to their patients every single time. And so today we're doing that through our scribing tool, which we call Sidekick. So you'll hear me say Sidekick. And then also our analytics tool, which we have Practice Intel. So those two tools we really use to help achieve our mission, which is to help therapists provide their best care that they can. And so that's really where we see AI helping, is to help therapists provide the best care. For me, I started with Prediction Health over, oh gosh, about 3.5 years ago. I was a client with Prediction Health. I was using their very, very, very early scribing tool. So, and I used that for 2 years prior to joining their team. So I am incredibly familiar with using an AI tool in the clinic with your patients. What does that do for you? How does it feel? What feels different? So I did that for 2 years prior to joining their team. And at the time, I just kind of said, "Hey, Pedro, do you do you want to give me a job? You guys don't have a PT on staff yet. So do you think this that I could be helpful and useful to you?" And he was very generous and said yes. And so now I've been with the team for 3.5 years. So today I am the VP of operations. I started out in sales and worked my way into which I'm definitely not a salesperson, I would say. So we have wonderful salespeople that work with us now, and I'm very grateful to them. And then moved into the client success portion. Really worked with our clients. I have consistently and continually work with our clients to make sure that they understand our platform, make sure that they know how our analytics are designed, what it offers them, how to use Sidekick the best. And then now I'm in an operations role to really help streamline all of the processes. I also work closely with the product team. So I am on the front end of our product development as well. So, which is always fun and exciting because I get to know all the cool things that we're doing with our AI. So that's a little bit about prediction health, me, and where I am now.
That's awesome. That's a great history right there. Gosh, 3 years. I would have thought it was more like 7 because we've been talking for some time, and you've been such a voice of reason in the profession of physical therapy at all the conventions and all the shows that I see you at, and I thoroughly enjoy our conversations when we do run into each other. Um, I'll say this, I think there's different types of AI, and people get confused with Sentinel, and I don't even know all the right terminology. I'm sure you do. So I'd love to see if you could clear some of that up. And
Mhm.
Matthew, our tech guy here on our side, he tends to get me to look at AI as automation. He's like, think about it more like automation because you hear AI on a TV and you think Skynet and Terminator and we're is the end of the world. So why don't we just lump those things together? This isn't Skynet. There's different kinds of AI. And am I correct as a therapist in thinking what AI really does provide me is some degree of automation? And as a result of that, I mean, oof, think about what that could buy me in terms of my time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a great way. So automation, and I also think like automation, admin tasks, or just kind of by default, what do I not want to do? So like
Okay.
like that's like by default. Like I don't want to write my documentation, right? Like I don't want to write a letter of medical necessity for like the same one over and over and over again, right? Like I don't want to have to, well, and this is what I use AI a lot for like softening my emails, right? Like, I don't want to spend 20 minutes ensuring that the tone in my email now, and that's a very simple thing that an AI can do, but it's a good example of just like throw it into Chat GPT, make this sound softer, and boom, you've got it, you're done. You don't have to expend your energy to do that. So that's how I think about in what ways can we use AI to solve a problem? And so, and like you said, automations, admin tasks, Brian, you're tackling a lot of that with the things
Yep.
that you do in your company. But there's things that maybe we can't outsource or we can't bring in a meg type of business that we need to do ourselves, but we can use AI for. And then, of course, the things I just don't want to do. It's not my skill set. I'm not familiar with how to do it. So that's where AI can then come in. So generally in my obviously I work for an AI company, so it's at the front of my brain all the time, but my personality is not by default to rely on automation or to investigate that. I'm a bulldozer, so I'll manually do something over and over and over again because I can. And but that's not I had to personally retrain my own brain to default to using AI. And so now today I'm much better at that. So instead of falling into my old pattern of behavior, which is I'm just going to put my head down, work super hard, and I'm going to bulldoze through this and be productive. We
Mm.
don't have to do that anymore. And that's where like if people take anything from this podcast, it's that. We do not have to do that anymore. We have tools and AI is going to allow us. It is an AI revolution and they call it that for a reason. And we can compare this to any sort of revolution, the computer, the technology revolution,
Mhm.
the industrial revolution, the steam engines. You go back to all of those different revolutions, it completely modernizes what we do with our world and with our technology. So there's no reason that physical therapy has to be any different than that. So that's kind of one thing. Another thing to note, so when you're talking about like how is AI, how does it work, all of those things. The one thing I really really like people to understand about AI is that different different companies, different AI tools will have a different standard for development when it comes to how it is created. How is it, who develops it, how is it created, what's the backbone of the output of the AI essentially, right?
Mhm.
And so for us at Prediction Health, the one thing that we have done is we have created a physical therapy specific. So and I say physical therapy and I mean rehab, so specialists. So we have physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. So a rehab specialist, the AI model itself is designed around that type of wording, phrasing, all the different things that we know are nuanced to how we would want to document or we would want things to be presented. So that is not by accident. That is something we have spent years and years developing. And we also use the tool, which we call supervised training. So there's this common, like, we get a question a lot from our clients saying, does the AI just learn like more about my documentation style and how my wording and how I want to? And what we have learned with our tools and working with, I think we're, oh gosh, we have almost 5,000 Sidekick users across the nation today. We have, oh gosh, about 10 or so thousand providers that we've analyzed their data across the nation, if not more. And what we have found is that generally therapists are not very good at documenting and they're not very good at coding. So
Newsflash, right? Oh, right.
if we didn't know that already, which a lot of us either I was guilty of that myself when I was practicing. So I certainly am not a perfect documenter myself, which is why AI was such a valuable tool for me. But what we have found is that the actual, like, you don't want the AI to be trained by the person using it. You want there to be a certain standard and a certain integrity level that's maintained with the output. So that's why we actually do all supervised training with input from our clients, of course. So we
Right.
always have feedback so our clients can say, hey, I'd really like the output to be like this. And so we have, every individual user that uses our platform, our analytics platform, or our scribing tool can give us individual feedback. We take that feedback, we analyze it line by line. That's one thing we don't allow AI to do for us. And we have a certain standard that we then retrain the model to upgrade our model to enhance how the output is. So that's something when we talk to clients about how do I look into the AI, what should I be looking for? I always tell them, ask how do you train your model? Does this, because you don't want the AI to go off the rails, right? Because that's one fear in the industry, and for most of us is that is the quality of what I'm getting, what I'm paying for, and also like what I expect. And the only way to know that is how is this trained and how does this receive feedback?
Yeah. That's very interesting. We hear the word hallucination and, AI, I think you guys seem to have that buttoned up. You're closely supervising what is happening. Um, I love what you said because you're right. We're not great at coding and we're not great at documenting. I was just in an office last week doing a practice office evaluation and I went through the documentation. I'm like, this isn't functional documentation. This isn't and then there's other people that are just writing journals and they're like wondering why they're not getting home in time. And so much help there. So much help there. Um, are there types of AI we should know about and should we be worried about it? And the type that you're using, how is it changing the culture of our PT clinic?
Mm. So so to answer your first question of, is there AI out there that we should worry about? Um,
Or that
I
we
don't know
use or
that.
don't use because there's different types, right? Like
Yeah, like there's different types, and essentially, like, I always think like there's an AI company, like, how we used to say there's an app for that.
yeah.
Like now there's AI for that. Like we are at the point now where there's AI for something out there all the time, right? And so I get the question, like, is AI going to take our jobs away? And so um there are different AI companies out there that are adjunct to treatment, right? Like they help movement capture, or they like, and I think that, in my opinion, I don't think AI is ever going to replace human connection that we all need at a base level, right?
Yeah.
And so, and human touch, right? It cannot do that. But I saw a presentation on AI recently, and there was basically the whole thing was like the therapist who uses AI in their practice will replace the therapist that does not, because it
Interesting.
will enhance your ability to treat your patients. And so
Right.
that's how that's how I want people who are listening to this podcast to see AI, is that depending on how you use it, it will enhance what you already do, make you better at what you already do, and allow you to do the things that you as a human can uniquely do, which is connect with people, touch people, feel things with your hands, have a place for them to go, accountability. Like, now there's tools that help with all those things. And I say that out loud, knowing that there are tools that help with all those things, the accountability, even the movement analysis, all those things that we're trained to do. But I think that fear of that um, will only make you less of a therapist. And so instead of adopting and innovating and taking these things in. So just
So the challenges or the problems that you guys have found that when somebody is a user and brings you in, it solves the problem of obviously accuracy and documentation,
yes.
appropriate coding to what they're doing,
Mhm.
better compliance with the standards of practice in terms of their documentation compliance. But yeah, not but that's great. In
Mhm.
addition, I should say instead of but, is it effective in actually giving me quality time back so that I can become a better clinician? Because I think that's what you're highlighting. And if so, how?
Yeah. So, a couple of different ways. So, and I don't want to skip over what you did just highlight, which is the quality improves, the
Yep.
coding improves. So, all of the things that we are thinking of an output, right? Like the output of the actual AI itself is better quality documentation. We measure compliance scores. We see that consistently. On average, people who start with our Sidekick tool get a 22% improvement in their, or 22-point improvement in their audit score. So an incredible improvement, which is a 0 to 100 score. We also see coding improvements. We see that consistently as well. And then we see time to sign off. So if you talk about AR, we see a reduction in how long it takes to get paid, because your therapists are signing your notes off faster. So that's a
Right,
huge,
right.
huge thing within our industry, right? Like,
Yeah,
you got to
I've
get those
never
notes signed.
it's funny you said that. I don't mean to interrupt, but I never would have thought that, having a billing company and we pride ourselves on getting dates of service paid within 12 to 24 days. I mean, we're a very fast turnaround company. We have a very highly experienced team. But yes, we are victim. Our group is the effect, I should say. We're the effect of the therapist. If the
Yep.
therapist notes aren't done or they're not complete or they need uh corrections or additions or what it holds us up. It holds
Yep.
us up and it adds to our AR and it drives us crazy because we try to keep our stats, above the bar of all the rest. So I totally get you there.
Yep.
In terms of the type of AI, I'm just personally interested in, do you know that there of course, the different names of the different types of AI.
Mhm.
Could you describe them for us so we just have a general understanding of the different types?
Oh gosh, Brian, to be honest, I'm mostly familiar with what we use, which is our, because I'm so entwined with that. We'd have to get Pedro on here with you, Brian,
No
to really dive
worries.
into
That's all
all the
that
nuances of that.
that's all that really matters. That's all that really matters. In terms of applying it, like we said, and you didn't want to gloss over the extreme benefits of the accuracy, the compliance, the coding, the getting the notes done in a more timely manner. Do you find that your therapists say, I'm able to spend more time with my patients, and as a result of that, I'm getting better outcomes quicker?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different layers to this. So the first layer is that you're actually verbalizing more of your clinical reasoning with your patients because you're trying to get it into the document. So that's the first level. So your interaction with your patient improves because you're actually recording more things. So if you think about a typical documentation when we're typing, we say something to the patient, Let's say they're doing an intervention, we're in a follow up. We say something to the patient, go ahead and do this exercise, and then we turn and we document what we're doing, right? And so we're also mentally focused on maintaining and keeping information in our brain so that we can put it down. When we are using a scribing tool, when we're using Sidekick, we have to verbalize that to our patient in order for it to get documented. We can't keep it internal. We can't, anything that is visually communicated or we're processing silently, we have to verbalize, which means you either do it outside of your patient visit, or if, which is sometimes appropriate, or you do it with your patient, which means they're getting more value out of that visit with you because you're now discussing with them why this special test is relevant to you
Mhm.
as their therapist,
Mhm.
why you are saying you need to come in 2 times a week for 6 weeks because my plan for you is XYZ.
Right.
So you end up saying those things, which we coach, like those of us who have done mentorship and all that stuff. Like, I feel like for me, I couldn't do that well with my patients until I was like 5 years in because it took
Right.
me a while to like know what to say and things like that. And maybe as a new grad using a scribing tool, you might still feel that way a little bit, but that will come a lot faster to you because you're verbalizing more of what's in your brain. So that's number one. First kind of improvement in quality of what you're giving. So that's the number one thing. Number two thing is that everything is faster. So, and I say that meaning your ability to perform an evaluation is faster because you
Mhm.
don't go measure, 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 type, 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 measure, 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 type, type, type. You measure and you talk what you're measuring at the same time.
Mhm.
And so we actually have found therapists who have been able to do their evaluations faster and they actually capture another unit of treatment. Now, for those of us who are more business minded, we see, more units, more dollars, more of those types of things, more value to what we're offering. But for those of us who are more clinically oriented, we're thinking about I can actually do more treatment with my patients because I'm not spending time documenting. So
Well,
that's another level.
that's fantastic, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I am always saying, like, when I'm setting up a clinic or doing a startup or scaling into another office and we go to a pay for performance model, I'm always saying our pay for performance model is in alignment with why you went to PT school.
Yes.
Because there's only two reasons why you went to PT school, and I haven't heard anybody give me a third. It's either A, because I want to gain the skills, knowledge, and abilities to help as many people in my community achieve the highest level of optimal health, or B, I want to be the highest skilled trained therapist to give the greatest abundance of care with each and every session because I'm so fortunate and blessed that they're choosing to sit here in my office. So if those are your two utter bottom line core reasons why you went to PT school, to have the highest level of skills, to have the greatest impact with each and every session, and to be able to provide the highest quality to as many people in your community to raise the level of your community, then using a tools such as this with the prediction health, your sidekick, scribe, it forwards the whole reason why we went to PT school, right? It's the same reason why we come in and we take care of patient registration, verifications, authorizations, and billing, because that's not physical therapy. That's just
Mhm.
not physical therapy. Let us take care of the remote administrative services. You don't need a screen. You don't need a virtual that you don't, you can, you don't, it doesn't matter. We can do either one.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you're not putting any mental attention there, then you're putting more mental attention units on your patient care, and your patient's getting more of the reason why you went to school. So, is what you're saying, Kelly, is when I walk into that room and I have my laptop or my tablet with me, is it conversational? We're just literally talking, and as I'm talking to the patient, it's pulling out the relevant pieces and constructing my notes. It's no longer I have to walk out and dictate in the sentence structure I want. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So it's an ambient listening tool, which means
Love it.
you have a conversation with your patient and you talk to them. But that's why like you have to verbalize more because you want that information in your notes. So you have to have that conversation with your patient. And so yes, it allows you to do all the things that you would have to write and to kind of add to your comments of like I didn't go to school to do all this admin stuff. How many people tell you I didn't go to school to document?
Right.
And
All the time.
PT who's ever existed, right? So
Oh,
I don't go
yeah.
to school to document. That's all I do. And so now you have an AI scribing tool, a sidekick tool that takes that away from you and it enhances your communication to your patient so they get more value. And when you're done with your eval, you get the results. You push stop recording, you get the results from everything. You load it into your note because it's integrated in your EMR and you're done. you're done. So now you don't have the, and I always, I used to like, it's like you feel the documentation weight on your shoulder.
Yeah.
You get to the end of the day and you know exactly how many notes you have to do from that day. And you're like, do I do them now and go home late, or do I come in early, or do I skip out on treating some patients and make my tech work with them? You like look at the next day to go, oh god, thank God that person can do tons of tech work, like work with my tech so I can get a bunch of notes done. That's a normal process and brain process when we don't have a scribing tool. When we do, that stuff changes. It totally changes. So when we talk about like quality, I'm talking like it's like so I'm starting with like your interaction with your patient improves, your time that you get to actually treat lengthens, the amount of time spent documenting shortens. So you now have more time to actually just be with your patients. So there's that, or be home, or take a lunch, or take a nap at lunch, go for a walk. Like your quality of your own life improves. And then just the mental weight and burden of documentation is not there anymore. And that's the
100%.
thing. Like when I was using it and practicing, that's kind of the like spoken thing that I didn't quite recognize until I was using it for a while. And we had a patient walk in, just a walk-in eval. And I don't know, I had 12, 13 patients on my full day. And I was like, yeah, squeeze them in, put them here. Like it wasn't even a question because I didn't see them as an eval that I had to take 20 minutes to type. I saw them like, oh, I have room on my calendar. Like, come on in. And we squeezed them in. And so because the burden of documentation, which limits our want to see our patients, is gone. And so I now get to go, oh, I have more people I can help. Back to your purpose, right? The whole purpose, I actually get to do that again. Same thing with like people calling in, physicians going, "Hey, can you squeeze so and so in?" Your relationship building ability is better. Like there's so many things that are just kind of this unspoken understanding. And when I was running practices, I had this thing like if you want if you want people to cancel, they will. It's like an energy you're putting out into the world,
That's right.
right?
I
Like
know. I know. I used to be like, I got a cancellation. Yes, I'm going to sit down and do my documentation and get caught up. And that is so the wrong message. It's crazy, crazy. A week ago, I shot a podcast and it was called Where Are the Profits Hiding? Right?
mm,
Because let's face it, if we want to preserve our level of income or see it grow to outpace the expenses, everyone's going to turn to the therapist treadmill, meaning I need my
yeah.
therapist just to see more people. I need my therapist
Mhm,
just to bill more units. I need my therapist
yep,
to hustle more. There's only so much juice you're going to squeeze out of that lemon on the clinical side, right? We have to find innovative ways to apply technology and resources into our practice if, in fact, you're going to operate in that top 10% of practices nationwide with a 15 to 20 cents on the dollar net revenue. 15 to 20 cents on the dollar profit margin. I don't know how anyone's going to do it without AI. I really don't. I
yeah,
really don't understand why anyone would even hesitate. It almost seems to me, and you would be better at answering this question, it almost seems to me like it pays for itself. If in fact I
yes,
put it in that practice, my therapists are going to, my reimbursement, my billables, my clinical efficiency, because in that podcast, I'm like, the profits are hiding in your patient volume. Do you have enough people coming in to keep your people at 85% efficient or higher on a 49 week out of the year, a 49 out of 52 week year? Number two, can you keep your therapist productive, like very productive per session, like providing more care and abundance of care? Nobody's saying I want you to bill more units because I want to buy a bigger boat. What we're saying is I want to give more care because that patient's got a $40 copay and they deserve it. They
yes,
deserve 4 units of care
yes,
instead of 2.5. They deserve it. So if I have a tool that's going to help me with the volume of patient care and of seeing more people in my community day per week per month, and allow me to give more care per session, then the only other third corner of the room where profits are hiding is in your payroll. Your payroll is your
right,
highest expense. So that's
yep,
kind of plugging myself here. That's where we come in and
yep,
we drop your administrative payroll. You're going to make a good 5 to 8 cents in net revenue right there because we're going to do it for less money. And you're going to come in and do the same. So literally, you've just handled that clinical side and we come in and handle that admin side. You put those two pieces together. If I'm running a PT clinic, I'm like, this is heaven.
mhm. Yeah, and that's where I'll also say, so there's the documentation side of things. And then there's this, like, I call it the hidden admin that you like, writing letters of medical necessity, doing like
Yes. Yes.
in like those types of things. Like, you have a patient who, 2 minutes before your next patient comes in, they ask you to write them a letter, right? And you're like, oh, great. And you're praying you have a template that you've previously saved, right?
Right.
And so our tool, our Sidekick tool, we've developed a portion of Sidekick that actually will read the screen and the note, and it will write, like, if you prompt it like you could a chat
Mhm.
GPT, excuse me. If you prompt chat GPT with the right things, it'll give you that. We have a HIPAA compliant PT or rehab specific chat GPT inside our Sidekick. So you can say,
Great.
please write, and I always am as polite as I can be to AI. I always use my please and thank yous. So, but please write me a letter of medical necessity for this patient in order to get out of work for 2 weeks due to, problems identified in note. Enter. Boom. You now have a template written in less than 20 seconds with all of the information you need. You now have done that administrative task that would typically take you 5 minutes or more into 30 seconds. Print
That's amazing.
on your,
That's
like, so those are the hidden things that wear us down, right? Like,
yeah.
you're in a clinic and you think you can get your notes done, but you have 5 phone calls you have to make. You have all these different letters you have to write. You have these authorizations you have to put together, all these different things. And all of a sudden, all that documentation time you thought you had is gone.
Yeah.
And so that's our life every day, all day long. And everyone who's going to listen to this feels that, like, to their bone marrow, right? And so, AI, again, we're trying to reduce the things that cause you to take away from your ability to see your patients. And so
100%.
that's where we want to do that.
I love it. I love the message, and I think as a clinician, like, oh my gosh, how wonderful, but I also think of it from the perspective of an owner. What a
Yeah.
gift I'm giving to my therapist,
Yeah.
right? I mean, what an assistance I'm offering them so that they can enjoy more of that work-life balance, but so can I as the practice owner.
Yes.
For you owners that are listening out there, I mean, think about your quality of life because it's literally gonna ensure that you're maintaining that scalability and that viability and that profit margin that we're talking about. Now, Kelly, bring us home. I know you guys have, Sidekick, and we've been talking a lot about Sidekick, but you have another component too
Yeah.
that is super important. And I, for the life of me, can't remember what you called it, but we've got Sidekick and we've got
Practice intel.
Practice Intel. That's what it was
Yep.
because I know it's
Yep.
more the analytic side. I know it, but Practice Intel. Tell everybody a little bit about that.
Yeah. So practice intel. So it we pull 100% of your therapist documents, so signed documented notes, and we do a retrospective analysis on compliance, on coding behaviors, both with our CPT model that identifies, did you select the right code for the appropriate, or did you select right code for what you wrote in your note? So, or did you not? And then how is your coding efficiency? So we're talking about, like, did
Mm,
you actually provide the number of units for the care that you did? And
mm,
and then not only that, but we have time to sign off, we have KPIs in there because we have the data. We also actually have metrics around our Sidekick usage, so you can monitor the usage of this tool that you just spent money on, so you can see who's using it and who's doing well. You can then compare that usage to their compliance score, to their time to sign off, so you can actually ensure that the investment you're making in this technology is impacting your therapist in the way you anticipate. So that's something that we've recently launched, which is very exciting. But ultimately, our Practice Intel platform allows you to see 100% visibility into all the documentation and identify quickly which therapists are putting you at risk from a compliance standpoint and who's putting you at risk from a cost standpoint. So
mm,
oftentimes there's um we see like we see like kind of a roundabout measurement of that. We see like average units per visit, and we can make
yeah.
some assumptions, and then we kind of can dive into that and understand. But like, this quickly says, like, your therapist has X number of units that they have billed as therapeutic exercise, that they have the justification in their documentation already to bill as therapeutic activity. It's not telling them to treat differently. It's not telling them they have to do something different with what they're doing with their patients. It's just saying, with what you did and what you documented, you selected the wrong code. And we know that happens all the time. We see it consistently. So this immediately gives, so those practice owners who are like, I think my therapists are doing that. I'm not sure. Like,
Right.
I do an audit of charts and I look at it and I see it, sometimes this tells you immediately these three therapists in your organizations are the ones that don't understand how to correctly select your CPT code.
Wow.
And then also with our coding efficiency portion, these therapists are the therapists who don't understand how to build the AMA rule versus the total minute rule.
Wow.
So you can quickly kind of identify and to your point about running a business, you have limited amounts of time, and I know one of your missions, Brian, is to make sure these folks don't spend so much time having to run their business, that they get to live their life too, right? Which aligns with our mission too. But that's where, if you know who to talk to and who to expend your energy on to bring up to the level of your other therapists, then you don't have to spend all the energy on all your therapists. Or you
100%.
can spend with what you need to do for those individual therapists.
I'm so excited to hear you say that because the philosophy has to be PTs helping PTs, right? Like you and I are PTs helping PTs. And all we really want, and you and I talked about this a little bit off camera, is we just want to help you, the listener, person in whether you're a staff therapist, a clinical director, or an owner, we want you to live the life that you always envisioned for yourself. We really, really do. And there's nobody here trying to convince you of something or try to coax you into something. We're trying to educate you. You know, you talk about sales and you think of sales as a bad word. I've never seen it that way. I've always seen it like if I have something of value that is valuable to you and I can exchange it with you at a value in abundance, then we're good friends. We're going to be good friends for a very long time because I've given you something of value that's of value in abundance to you because of its exchange in abundance with you time and over and over and over again. And so people ask me to this day, Brian, you've got thousands of people on your platform and you still do 15-minute free coaching sessions at any time they want them, whenever they want them. I'm like, that's the value. That's the exchange in
Yeah.
abundance. I'm here to help them apply what they're learning. When I hear you speak about this, this is a complete game changer in my world
Yes.
because the mental attention units alone that are spent in this area that now can be diverted to some other area allows me to have a better company culture, B, a better patient care experience, C, a better brand and community awareness, and
Mhm.
I guess I'm up to D, better work-life balance and quality of life for myself, my family as well. So many
Yes.
people as the owners leave themselves out of that. This isn't just about the
Yes.
people who come to work with you, it's about you too. So Kelly, I think you've done a fantastic job explaining, and I think you've done it more in a more concise manner than where I was going with it. Because in
Mhm.
my mind, I guess I have a little bit of this, massive awareness of how it's all changing in the world. But
Yes.
what you did in this podcast was so wonderful because you said, don't think about that. Think about how this just helps us in this lane. Think about
Yes.
what is so important to us. Isn't it the compliance? Isn't it the time wasted on documentation? Isn't it the confusion? Is it the fact you can go in and have a conversation and walk out and have a note done is like, I thought it was amazing when Turbo PT had copy and paste. I was like, this is great. I can copy and paste. It was the freaking best thing ever. Prior to that was type everything all over again. So Kelly, you're amazing. Your company's amazing. I've met both of the founders in the past. I absolutely enjoy them. It's like when you're in the room with some really smart people, you're like, I'm with some really smart people right now. I really need to think about my vocabulary. And you know me, I'm very much what you see is what you get. So I love those guys. I love what your company's doing. I love seeing you out there in the lecture circuit as well. I think my message to all of you who've listened to this podcast all the way to the end where we are right now, you literally are listening to two people who literally just want you to live the best life you can. She's got a technology AI tool that's just going to take so much of that burden away from you. I have services that are just so dynamic. I mean, when you're in 50 states like we are, well, I guess we're not quite in 50. We're in like 44 states with 120 people servicing your remote administrative needs so you can actually nurture your patients better, your company better, and live with a better net profit. And so is Kelly's group as well. So, with that said, I just think it's the right ship going in the right direction. I think we're all in the same port. What would you like to leave the listeners with? How can they get in touch with you? What is your parting message? I think we've talked philosophically. I think we've talked operations. I think people have a pretty good idea of what you're doing for them. Let's get
Yeah.
people connected.
Yeah. So you can reach out to me personally at kelly.brown@predictionhealth.com. Again, Brian, I'm with you. Like, I'm always available to people. I love our industry. I love PTs. We're a really, really solid group of humans. And so I'm always here to support people in any way possible. But for if you guys are like, I want to do a demo of this, I'm really, really interested in prediction health, you can always reach out to sales@predictionhealth.com. So you can always reach out to sales@predictionhealth.com. We do trials. So I always tell people, like, if you're interested in any way, shape, or form, if this could be helpful, do a trial. Just try it out, both for the practice intel and for the actual sidekick. Like, it's one of those things that you just gotta investigate. And my whole thing is that if there's even a smidgen of curiosity there, then you should investigate that, right? So I have always leaned into curiosity. I'm really big on that. I think that it drives innovation. It drives us to be more humble and grateful and all the things that we need in our life to be humans. But that's one of the things for our business, for your therapist, for yourself. Just allow that curiosity to blossom into that. And to your point, Brian, the about sales, it's is one of those things that salespeople are there to help us. And when we're open to that, it actually really helps us find things that we may not know we need. So yeah, so I would say just let us know. We're here to help. We really truly are aligned with what you said, Brian.
100%.
Here to
And as you guys know, and you listen to my podcast, I love to talk about personal growth ideas and tips for professional success. This whole podcast has been giving you tips for professional success through Kelly and Prediction Health. My personal growth idea is literally this: A doesn't equal A. So just because when you're 8 years old and you get bit on the arm by a dog doesn't mean all dogs are bad and you should avoid all dogs because all dogs are. That is ridiculous. That is literally insane. So just because you've had a bad sales experience doesn't mean you should write off all salespeople, because great people, and I like to hopefully put myself in that category with you, Kelly, and so many other people who really have the right uh, perspective. Like, your success is my success. Like, I start every day with that idea. And if I have something that I could provide of help that's going to help you do what you're doing better, then yes, you are going to exchange for that valuable, but it should be in an abundant manner. And I know, Kelly, you guys do that. We've been talking to each other for a very long time. I'm very grateful to have known you and work with your group. I'm very humbled by that. So, for those of you guys who are listening to this, please don't hesitate to go to the website was again
Yep. Predictionhealth.com. Mhm.
predictionhealth.com. And I'm sure there's a form fill there to be able to
Yes,
do. Yeah.
absolutely. There's all sorts of form fills.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Go do that. You guys can go to or actually, I should say grow at megbusiness.com. Form fill there. We can help you with any service you're looking for there as well, whether it be patient registration, front desk, verifications, authorizations, or billing and collections, whatever it may be, or simply CEO hat training and staff training. That is the backbone of what we do. So you got two groups here just trying to advance you in the industry of today. And keep in mind this, I'm going to part with this. I think 2025 is a wonderful year for physical therapy. It is the second best profession in the world. You can't beat a professional baseball player. They don't play if it rains. They don't have to hit anybody. They get paid a ton of money. They play in the sun. Super awesome. Set that one aside. We are definitely number two. So live the life you've envisioned for yourself. Do what you do best. Get down to being a physical therapist and the top of your license, and let these innovative tools and technologies and outsourced services take the rest of the burden off so you can do what you absolutely love to do, which is being a physical therapist. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I really appreciate you tuning into our channel. I hope this was educational and informative. We are here for you. Start each and every day expecting to do well.